How's the administration dealing with this?
Yeah, and Vice President Harris is speaking now at FEMA as well, and so they both have sort of scrambled to illustrate the response today after getting some criticism from Republicans over the weekend. Right now, it looks like the response is basically focused on North Carolina. The storm, of course, touched roughly half a dozen states, but a bulk of the damage is in western North Carolina, and so that's what we're seeing. The FEMA director is stationed there. Biden has asked her to stay there until things stabilize, and right now it's a question of really sort of immediate response as opposed to rebuilding, so things like clearing debris, working on connectivity issues, including Starlink terminals that FEMA was already delivering, and then Donald Trump called Elon Musk about anyway. So a bit of, a moving pieces here as they try to set up a response and a little bit of political wrangling, even though, of course, Donald Trump's saying that this is not a time for politics, but both campaigns and the administration are bracing to sort of, reach out and participate in the response, or at least being seen to be participating to the response.
Yeah, the timing of this with this proximity to the election certainly can't be ignored. It's also because of the election coming up on November 5th that Congress currently is not in town. Yeah. They're all campaigning, and they aren't set to return until the vote is actually over. President Biden today suggested he may need to call them back for a special session to get supplemental funding through. When will we know if that's going to happen?
It's unclear right now. There is some support. Rick Scott, the senator from Florida, of course, has called for some measure of funding for it. We don't know what the price tag will be, and therefore, I think they'll wait on that to see. But it's just simply unclear as to whether House Republicans will come forward for it, whether there be enough votes in the Senate for it. It's anyone's guess, I think, right now. But the electoral footprint on this, and it's too soon to talk about that. Let me maybe first talk about, right now, we had Liz Sherwood-Randall, the Deputy National Security Advisor. There are 600 people in North Carolina in particular unaccounted for. That often means sometimes they're without cell signal. It not necessarily means that they've passed away, but the death toll and casualty toll is really up in the air right now, and I think they're focusing on that very closely right now. So we just don't know what the footprint will be. There are some reports, Associated Press, saying about 100 people have died in these storms.
Yeah, it's terrible, the humanitarian impact of this. Bloomberg's Josh Wingrove, thank you so much. And of course, if you're with us on Bloomberg Television, you were just seeing there Vice President Harris giving remarks at FEMA here in Washington, D.C. So we're hearing from her. And earlier today, we also heard from Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp, who spoke about aid in his state following the devastation caused by Hurricane Helene. Take a listen.
Just know that we will work in a bipartisan way on disaster relief in this state with our federal, state, and local partners. We have submitted our expedited emergency declaration. This is something that's very rare, but this will help us, and I feel certain it'll be approved by the President and our federal partners.
For more, we're joined now by Bloomberg's Texas Bureau Chief Julie Fine. And of course, while we heard from Georgia's governor today, Julie, we also heard from former President Trump, who made a visit to Valdosta.
Yes, he did. He did make that visit. And like my colleague Josh Wingrove said, yeah, it's not about politics. And the former president didn't talk too much about politics today. He brought truckloads of supplies. He talked about that. He did visit the devastation. However, he did say that Governor Kemp, and they have a tenuous relationship at best at this point, wasn't able to get through to President Biden. That is not true. The governor has said that he has been able to reach him. But overall, former president visiting the ravaged state, saying he would like to go to North Carolina at some time soon. Now, of course, there will be people that will be very happy that he came here, that he showed that he cared in the area. However, there are others that say, when somebody makes a visit like this is oftentimes why presidents take some time before they go somewhere like that, is that it does take resources to make sure that they can get there and get there safely. So there is that as well. But again, like Josh said, there will be politics playing into this.
Well, it's an important point that you make, Julie. The local officials have, of course, asked these national political figures to give it a minute here as they try to deal with the immediate devastation that the storm has left. We'll see if Joe Biden makes his way there sooner than later. I have to ask you about the Senate race that's going on in Texas. It's something, Julie, that you've been talking about before, since before people started paying attention. And we have another piece of polling out today, public policy polling, which shows this tied essentially within the margin of error, a statistical tie for Ted Cruz, Colin Allred. Are we serious that Democrats can flip this Texas seat blue?
Well, it's difficult for any Democrat in a statewide race to do this. However, what you are seeing is an extremely close race in a state where people are not afraid to spend money. So it is an uphill battle for a Democrat. But I will tell you, Colin Allred is running much differently than former El Paso Congressman Beto O'Rourke, who seemed to be everywhere. He really was a national phenomenon. He was a liberal darling. He's raised over $80 million for the seat. Colin Allred doing things much differently, raising his name recognition, but running a much more strategic campaign. So there is hope for Democrats here. The money rolling in now, the National Democrat Senatorial Committee they are putting money into this race as well. It'll be interesting to see. Yes, it is an uphill battle. Is it absolutely impossible? No, it is not.